Hi boys and girls, happy Monday. Hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. Maybe you got to relax, go outside, have fun. But now we are continuing along with our Wishtree Read Aloud, and I know you all are probably so excited to read the next few chapters because I know I am. We are going to be reading chapters 21 to 26 in today's Read Aloud. Alrighty, so we left off last week with Red finding out that Francesca, who is technically Red's owner, may want to cut Red down. And Red says that Francesca has done this many times before, she's never actually acted upon it, but this time it seems like Francesca is pretty serious. Although Red, an optimist, is trying to see the positive side of the situation, and she doesn't seem to be too worried about it. But Bongo, her friend, and the other animals, on the other hand, are all worried about Red, and they care for her a lot. Also considering that Red provides them a home and food, and a place to store acorns and everything else. But they're all worried for Red, and Red is kind of saying it's never going to happen, it's fine. And on Friday, we also left off with Bongo and Red having a conversation about Samar, because even though Red's in this situation, she's more worried about Samar and her not having any friends and being lonely. This shows how kind Red is. Again, this conversation that keeps coming up about how Red is kind. So her and Bongo were talking, and it seemed like at the end of our chapter that we left off with, Red was foreshadowing maybe that she was going to talk, and we're not sure exactly what's going to happen, so let's find out. Chapter 21. Bongo, I said early that morning as the last stars faded like weary fireflies. There's something I need you to do. Does it involve potato chips? Bongo mumbled. No. Then I'd rather sleep. It's about Samar. You promised you'd let me sleep in. I didn't promise. You implied. I want to grant Samar's wish. This roused Bongo. She fluttered down to her favorite branch, the one she had nicknamed Home Plate. Bongo likes to watch the kids play softball at the elementary school. Red, you don't make wishes happen. You're the place where wishes go. You're like a leafy garbage can, in a good way. For 216 rings, I've sat on my roots and listened to people hope for things. And a lot of times, those wishes never happened, I'm guessing. Bongo tucked a feather into place. Sometimes that's for the best. Remember the kindergartner who wanted a bulldozer? I'm passive. I just sit here watching the world. You're a tree, Red. That's kind of the job description. This is a good wish, and it's a wish I can make happen. I paused. Well, we can make happen. So Red's thinking that she could do something, but then you have Bongo on the other hand. He's like, what? You're crazy. You can't do that. You don't grant wishes. You're just a tree. So what do you think? Do you think Red is a little crazy, or do you agree with Red? Do you think Red should try and do something about this since no one else seems to be doing it? Who do you agree with? Yeah, I had a feeling that's where this was going. Bongo glided to the ground. Look, I heard Samar's wish. How exactly are you going to find her a friend? You'll see, I said, hoping I sounded more confident than I felt. Red, Bongo paced back and forth. With each step, her head bobbed forward. We've got more serious issues, pal. Francesca's talking about turning you into toothpicks, and your residents are frantic about whether they're going to move if it happens. She came close and nudged me fondly. Of course they're worried about you, too. I know that. Fresh baked bread poked her head out from under the porch. It was barely dawn, and only the white stripe running the length of her face was clearly visible. I've offered to take in one of the tree families temporarily, she announced. Preferably the possums. They're better behaved than the ewes. That was very generous of you, Fresh, I said. But I was interrupted by Big Ewe, the mother of the 3 raccoon babies. She was in my large hollow, grumbling under her breath. I beg your pardon, she exclaimed. You, and you have excellent manners. They're too inquisitive, said Fresh Baked Bread. Inquisitive means to be very curious about something. So inquisitive, curious. Always poking their noses where they shouldn't be. Grabbing things with those little paws of theirs. Well, at least they don't stink, Big U cried. And your children have paws, last time I checked. Hairy Spiders, the mother possum, peeked out cautiously from her own hollow. Possums name themselves after things they fear. Stink is in the nose of the beholder, said Hairy Spiders. And while I personally think your children have a delightful odor of fresh, I've already got dibs on the woodpile 2 doors down. Should anything happen to dear Red, she patted me. No offense, love, just thinking ahead. You know. No offense taken, I assured her. I saw the pile first, Big U cried. Share the skunk den, Spider said. I wouldn't be caught dead in that place, Big U exclaimed. Not now. Now that I know my inquisitive children aren't wanted. Again, inquisitive means to be curious. Well, they are a bit boisterous, said Hairy Spiders. Boisterous is another adjective used to describe someone or something that is very cheerful and energetic and maybe a little active. At least my children have spunk, said Big U. Your kids faint when they see their own shadows. Playing possum is a useful adaptation, said Hairy Spiders, her pink nose twitching. The world is a dangerous place, and in any case, we can't control it. It just happens. If I may interrupt, came a cool voice from my highest branches. It was Agnes. There's a nice-looking linden tree 2 blocks away, just vacated by a gray squirrel family. We're looking at it as a possibility. But there's a tomcat that runs loose there. Collar, no bell, so that's an issue. Also a big slobbery dog. In fairness, all dogs are slobbery, Bongo observed. I really think you should all calm down, I interrupted. Let's not buy trouble. One day at a time, my friends. Who knows what tomorrow may bring? The mothers glared at me. I heard a great deal of sighing. Too much, wise old tree? I asked. Too much, wise old tree, Bongo confirmed, as everyone retreated into their homes in a huff. They're all a bit tense, Bongo said, worried about your situation. I can see that. I'm worried too, Bongo said in an almost whisper. I know, I said gently, but every cloud has a silver, red, Bongo interrupted. Sorry. There must be something I can do, Bongo said. You're a good friend, Bongo, but sometimes all you can do is stand tall and reach deep. Red! Sorry, I said again. What will I do without you, Red? Bongo said softly. You'll be fine, my friend, I promise. We both fell quiet. At last, Bongo shook herself, feathers fluffing. In any case, maybe not the best time to be granting wishes, is my point. Seems to me this is exactly the right time, I replied. Bongo groaned, her little old man groaned. She knew I wasn't backing down, and with that, we began to plan. So in this chapter, all of the animals kind of come together, and they're going back and forth a little bit about what to do if this were to happen to Red. There's a little back and forth between all the animals, but Red doesn't want to hear it. She understands that they're worried, but she insists that she's fine. She promises everything's going to be fine. And Bongo is trying to tell Red that you can't be focused on Samar right now because you're in this situation yourself. You can't be worried about, And I think Bongo's just worried for her friend too. I don't think there's no harm in her, with her intentions. She doesn't mean what she's saying in a bad way. She's just genuinely worried for Red. But again, Red is persistent and she wants to continue with this plan to help Samar. And we are going to read about those plans in the next following chapters. Chapter 22. We executed plan number 1 an hour and a half later when Stephen headed off to school. He'd gotten only as far as the sidewalk when Bongo dove straight toward his backpack, poking at the zipper with her beak. She cawed frantically. Frantically means to be in a hurried, excited, or disorganized manner. So move around quickly because you're either worried or excited. When crows want to be loud, they can be extremely loud. What? Stephen cried. What is wrong with you, Bird? He dropped his backpack to the ground. Bongo landed on the backpack, looking up at him hopefully. Chip, please, she said. Stephen rolled his eyes. Seriously? Hello, Bongo said. Chip, please. Stephen put his hands on his hips. Okay, fine. I've seen you in action working the bus line. Bongo hopped to the ground as Stephen unzipped his backpack. You rock, she said politely. Stephen pulled out his lunch bag and opened it. Let's see. I've got a tuna fish sandwich, carrot sticks. But before he could say anything more, Bongo plunged into the backpack, grabbed a sheet of paper, and flew skyward. Hey, that's my English homework, Stephen cried. Come back here, you thief. Bongo flew high into my branches and landed with a victorious caw. Stephen stalked around the bottom of my trunk, where the yellow police tape encircled me. Please, Crow, he pleaded. I'll give you my whole sandwich, please. Bongo perched on the paper, freeing her beak. No way, she replied. A few more minutes of grumbling, and Stephen gave up. Great, he muttered as he grabbed his backpack. Miss Kellerman is never going to believe me when I tell her a crow ate my homework. Okay, so Red is now taking action with her first plan with the help from Bongo. So far, Bongo took a piece of paper out of Stephen's backpack, but I wonder why he did that. I don't know, so let's continue reading. Chapter 23. When Samar exited her house, it was time for the rest of our plan. She paused, as she always did, to say hello, and Bongo, as she always did, said hello back. But this time Bongo surprised Samar by landing on her shoulder and presenting her with a mangled piece of paper. Samar took it from Bongo. This has Stephen's name on it. Why on earth do you have it? No way, Bongo said, by way of an answer. Well, I'll be sure he gets this, Samar said. Okay, I see what's going on now. Bongo gave a little caw and headed back to me. Perfect. A simple plan, beautifully executed. Samar would give the homework to Stephen. They'd strike up a conversation about the crazy crow in the big oak tree. They'd laugh, they'd share, they'd realize they have a lot in common. Voila! Friendship. It was a great plan. Except for the part that came just seconds later. The part where Samar noticed a friend of Stephen's walking by. She dashed over and asked him to give Stephen the piece of paper. And that was it. Meddling isn't as easy as I thought it would be, I confessed to Bongo. Hey, I did my part. You were wonderful, I said. Well, we'll just have to try again. We don't have a lot of time. Red, Bongo said with a sigh. Please don't remind me. So that was an interesting and creative plan that Red had. Unfortunately, it got ruined because Samar gave the piece of paper as homework to one of Stephen's friends instead of directly bringing it to him. So now Bongo and Red are going to have to move along with plan number 2. And clearly Bongo's not too happy, but she has to do what she has to do. So let's see what plan number 2 is about. Chapter 24. That afternoon, we tried plan number 2. This isn't going to work, Red, Bongo said, strutting back and forth on the lawn. Pessimist, I said. Optimist, she replied. Here we go again with the pessimist versus optimist conversation. Again, we have Red calling Bongo a pessimist and Bongo calling Red an optimist, trying to get at each other, but it's who they are, so... Secretly, I had my doubts, though. Our second plan required help from one of the babies. There had been much bickering over which baby would get to assist us. But then, there had been plenty of bickering ever since Francesca's threat to cut me down. It frustrated me to see my residents, the ones who'd miraculously been getting along so well, turn on one another when faced with a problem. Granted, it was a big problem, but if I could handle it, it seemed like the least they could do was behave during our last days together. Bongo flipped a penny she kept in her collection of treasures, and we arrived at our helper, the smallest baby possum. Flashlight. Let me get this straight, said Bongo. You're afraid of Flash? Shh, Harry Spiders hissed. We try not to say that word around him. So what do you actually call him? Agnes asked. He answers to Flash, Harry Spiders explained. Well, Flash, said Bongo, you understand the drill, right? You pretend to be dead. Flash nodded excitedly. Possums are the best dead pretenders in the world. So you play dead. Samar and Steven see you as they're coming home from school. We're hoping they come home at about the same time today, I interrupted. And they freak out, Bongo continued. See cute little maybe dead baby. Talk about what to do. Are you certain this is safe? Asked Harry Spiders. I'm feeling a little faint just thinking about it. We'll all be watching, and Steven and Samar are smart kids, I reassured her. They'll know not to touch a sick animal. So they go get their parents, call a wildlife rescue place or maybe a vet, and while they're busy, Bongo continued, little Flash runs back to his den. Samar and Steven come back out, have a good laugh about the vanishing possum, maybe the parents even get to talking. I really think you would do a better job, Big U complained. She's a born actor, or you. Again, another example of how Red is more of an optimist and Bongo is more of a pessimist. At the end of this chapter, Red saying how this is totally going to work, she's being positive, and Bongo saying this is totally going to fail, this is not going to work, therefore she is seeming very pessimistic about this. So they have everything all planned out, they just gotta put it into action, wait till Steven and Samar come home from school, and as bad as it might be for me to say this, but I think this is kind of a funny plan they got going on for the possum to play dead, so let's see how it turns out. Chapter 25. And action, Bongo whispered. Little Flash waddled out to the middle of the lawn. He lay down on his side and curled up. He closed his eyes. He drew back his lips, revealing tiny, needle-sharp teeth. Perfect, Bongo said. Try foaming at the mouth, dear, Harry Spiders called. Down the street, we could see Steven approaching. Luckily, Samar was just a few yards behind him. Flash leaped up. How am I doing, Ma? Wonderfully, my baby, said Harry Spiders. Mommy's so proud of her little bitty possum. Be dead, Bongo cried. Oh, yeah, Flash shrugged. I kind of forgot, Aunt Bongo. I'm not your aunt, Bongo said. I'm not even a member of your species. Well, that doesn't really matter, I chided. Be dead, Bongo cried again. Flash hiccuped. Oh my, said Harry Spiders. He does that when he's nervous. How come I can't be dead, Mom? Asked Rose Petal. Newbies, quiet, Bongo commanded. Flash, stop hiccuping, dude. Here they come, I whispered. Steven and Samar. The hiccups got louder. Flashlight, Bongo said. Now! Don't call him that, his mother cried. Flashlight froze. He stopped hiccuping. Foam dripped from his mouth. His half-open eyes were glazed and unseeing. The works, Bongo whispered. Brilliant! Steven found Flash first. Samar was close behind. What should we do? Steven asked. Success, I thought. They were actually talking to each other. Don't touch it, said Samar. It might be rabid. Or it could just be playing dead. I read that possums will do that. I'll go get my mom. Maybe she can call someone. Sounds good, said Samar. To my disappointment, Steven and Samar nodded at each other and promptly went into their separate houses. And once again, that was that. All that work for just a few moments of conversation? How, exactly, did people make friends? How hard could it be? Still, I reminded myself, Steven and Samar had spoken to each other, and that was a good first step, wasn't it? Flash, Bongo called. Time to go back to your den, buddy, before they come back. Flash remained frozen in a little possum ball. Flash, I called. Flash, baby, Harry Spiders yelled. Oh my, said Big U, I don't think your baby's acting. My baby, my precious Flash, cried Harry Spiders, and Flash's brothers and sisters began to wail. You really should have used one of my U's, Big U said. Flash, stop being dead, Bongo yelled. She hopped over to Flash and gently poked him with her beak. How dare you peck my son, Harry Spiders yelled. Flash, I'll save you, baby. So Flash clearly fainted because Bongo accidentally called him Flashlight, which we know he doesn't like to be called because he's afraid of flashlights. So they called him Flash. So he's not even playing to be dead. He fainted, and everyone's going crazy. Harry Spiders dashed out of her hollow, scrambled down my trunk, and promptly fainted. Oh, great, said Bongo. Just fantastic. Like mother, like son. What now, wise old tree? You grab Flash, I instructed. Fresh baked bread and Big U. Can you rescue Harry Spiders? Pull her over to Fresh's den under the porch. Harry Spiders called my children boisterous, Big U said. Big U said my children stink, Fresh Baked Bread said. Over 2 centuries of life, and I'd hardly ever raised my voice. This was one of those times. Now, I commanded, just as the door to Stephen's house opened. You'd be surprised how fast raccoons and skunks can be when they're motivated. Chapter 26. Stephen and his mother eventually gave up trying to find the mysterious baby possum. Samar watched them from her living room window, but she didn't venture out. After about an hour, Harry Spiders and Flashlight woke up and returned, on wobbly legs, to their den. And that was that. Again. Don't worry, I told Bongo. 3rd time's a charm. What's that supposed to mean? It's just something people say. Charm, Bongo sneered. Did you know that's what people call a bunch of hummingbirds? No, actually. Hummingbirds, which, let's face it, are pretty much just overdressed flies. But a bunch of us crows together, guess what we get to be called? What? A murder! A murder of crows. Can you believe it? A bunch of trees, you're a grove. A bunch of raccoons, a gaze. Bongo flapped her wings. But crows, we're a murder. Are you quite finished? I asked. Sorry, I'm worried about you, and I get grumpy when I'm worried. Bongo plucked out a piece of new grass and tossed it aside. I have one more plan to get Samar and Stephen talking, I said. How about a plan to get you not turned into a picnic table? I can't control everything in life, Bongo, I said gently. And if I could, what fun would that be? But this little thing, this wish of Samar's, I can make it happen, I hesitated. At least, I think I can. I don't understand why this matters so much to you. She reminds me of a little girl I knew a long time ago. You're a Batinsky, said Bongo wearily. But I love you anyway. She looked at me with something like a crow version of a smile. Beak open, head cocked, eyes gleaming. So what's plan number 3? I'm very surprised that Red actually seems to be so calm about everything, and she doesn't seem to be worried about her being cut down. And I find this to be interesting just because, personally, I feel like I'd be at least freaking out like just a little bit, but she doesn't seem to be worried like at all, which is very interesting to me. But yet again, Red is an optimist, so this is just her way of thinking. So plan number 1 didn't work. Plan 2 didn't work either. So now they have to move on to plan number 3, and they have to do it fast because Red is about to get cut down, so they need to get working fast with this one. So you tell me, do you think plan number 3 is going to work out? They had a lot of difficulty with the first 2, but like Red said, 3rd time's the charm maybe? Hopefully it works out. So now just answer the questions on Google Form just to show me what you remember from these chapters, and if you enjoyed the book so far, what you think is going to happen with plan number 3, and so on. Alrighty, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Happy reading!